Billionaire's shocking bet revealed, Maid's daughter achieves 100M, transforms everything. Maria's hands ached from scrubbing floors all day, but her heart soared with pride as she glanced at her daughter, Elena, engrossed in her books. As a maid in one of Chicago's towering high-rises, Maria spent her days cleaning up after the city's elite, while dreaming of a world where her child would have a better shot at a life free from economic struggles. Rain battered the windows, but inside their small but cozy apartment, hope bloomed like wildflowers pushing through concrete. One evening, as they were getting dinner ready, Elena burst into the room with gleaming eyes. "Mom! I got the scholarship." The words rushed out like water from a dam, flooding the room with emotion. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. All the late nights, all the missed dreams, it was worth it to see Elena reaching for the stars. But with that scholarship came a new reality. The next thing Elena knew, she was surrounded by designer-clad peers and lavish parties. The contrast shocked her. Here, society sang a different tune, one filled with privilege and expectations. The laughter in these extravagant spaces made her feel like an outsider. Doubts crept in, twisting her stomach into knots. Her phone buzzed with reminders from her mother, grounding her to their journey together, but the clash of worlds loomed like a storm cloud overhead. At an exclusive event, draped in borrowed glamour, Elena overheard something that shook her to the core. "A bet has been placed," a voice cold as ice whispered. Thomas Caldwell, the enigmatic billionaire, was wagering on whether she, a working-class student, could navigate the corporate landscape. Anger surged through Elena. Could someone like him really reduce her worth to a mere gamble? She vowed in that moment not only to succeed but to break the nasty stigma attached to her background. Driven by this fire, Elena launched an innovative startup that harnessed her passion for technology and creativity. Within a year, it generated an astonishing 100 million. Overnight, she became a beacon of hope for many. Her mother's sacrifices echoed through every success, yet with triumph came tension. Maria, watching Elena swirl in the glitzy lifestyle, worried her daughter was losing herself to the allure. "Know where you came from, Elena. Don't forget us," Maria begged on a rainy afternoon. Elena felt the weight of those words like a thick fog closing in around her. In that moment of heated frustration and bewilderment, everything felt fragile. Their laughter now felt like whispers lost in the winds of their changing lives. The fallout came crashing down when the media caught wind of Caldwell's bet. Suddenly, Elena was back where she started, under scrutiny, under pressure, fighting against not just her ambitions but the biases that festered within society. Was she a success, or merely a lucky product of a cruel bet? Her world seemed to shift beneath her feet. Now, facing Caldwell in an unexpected clash of wills, Elena stood ready. "You don't know me," she spat, her voice crackling with emotion. This was her moment. But as she read his cold smile, she hesitated, wondering if this encounter would redefine her life or leave her just as isolated as before. Just when everything seemed poised on the edge of change, a question hung in the air: would she choose the path that bridged her back to where she started, or plunge forward into the shadows, chasing success at the cost of her roots? Elena's heart raced, her breath caught in her throat as she met Thomas Caldwell's gaze. The room pulsed with unspoken tension, electric and heavy, like the air before a storm. She could feel the judgment of others pressing in, their eyes flicking between them, whispering the narrative they had crafted around her, a mere pawn in Caldwell's twisted game. "What's your angle, Caldwell?" she shot back, her voice a mix of defiance and disbelief. "Do you get your kicks watching people like me struggle?" He chuckled, a dark sound that sent chills down her spine. "You misunderstand, Elena. A bet is just a way of measuring potential. And you, dear, have proven to be quite the surprise." His eyes sparkled with a twisted kind of admiration. It made her skin crawl. Anger surged within Elena, but so did something else, a challenge. She took a step closer, her fingers twitching at her sides, itching to prove him wrong. "You see a bet. I see a chance to show that anyone can succeed, no matter where they come from." The crowd shifted, curiosity piqued. They were here for entertainment, but she understood something vital in that moment. This was about more than just her. It was about every kid who had been told they would never amount to anything, every dream crushed beneath the heels of privilege. As the evening unfolded, Elena poured herself into her presentation, showcasing her startup that had quickly skyrocketed beyond her wildest imagination. She spoke with the passion ignited from her mother's sacrifices and her own grit. She knew she could convince them that she had already carved out her own path. After she finished speaking, the applause felt like a lifeline thrown into the turbulent sea of judgment and whispers. But in the back of her mind, Caldwell's quiet, calculating gaze still loomed like a shadow. Just as she thought she had gained ground, he interrupted her thoughts. "Impressive work, Elena. But the question remains, what happens next?" The challenge in his voice sent a shiver of dread through her. "You think you can control how this unfolds? I'm not a trophy to be collected, and I refuse to be your plaything." A silence fell over the room, broken only by the sound of fidgeting guests. It felt like a moment suspended in time, stretching between them, filled with potential for destruction or creation. For the first time, Elena remembered her mother's words, the importance of remembering who she was, where she came from. As the event wound down, they were drawn away from the center stage, where conversation turned from congratulatory to contemplative. One of her fellow scholars approached an ally from the scholarship program. "Elena, that was fearless. But be careful. Caldwell is more powerful than he lets on. This isn't going to end with just your success." She nodded, feeling a chill creep up her spine as the stakes of her new reality settled in. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. Thomas Caldwell was not just a billionaire, he was an obstacle, a threat, but also a reminder that success was often built on precarious foundations. Determined, Elena took a deep breath, ready to fight for her truth, her voice, her place in this world. But deep inside, a fearful question lingered: how much was she willing to risk to keep her independence, and would the cost be greater than she anticipated? With a resolve burning in her chest, she clenched her fists. It was time to take back her narrative. But what horrible surprise awaited her when she dug deeper into Caldwell's motives. Elena stepped away from the crowd, her heart still racing. The applause echoed in her mind, but it faded quickly, replaced by the weight of Caldwell's words. What happens next? That was the question gnawing at her. She couldn't let his game dictate her path. As Elena scanned the room, she spotted Caldwell standing a few feet away, his smirk unsettling. It didn't matter how much people admired her, his presence felt like a dark cloud looming over her victory. A cocktail of determination and fear bubbled inside her. She had to find out what his angle truly was. Finding a quiet corner, she pulled out her phone to research more about Caldwell. His history, his business ventures, anything. Each search revealed a man who thrived on manipulation, a puppeteer of industry and minds alike. Her stomach twisted as she recalled his earlier statement, the charm laced with menace. If she meant something to him, it wasn't good. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a message from her ally. "Elena, you need to meet me tomorrow. Important info about Caldwell." A rush of adrenaline surged through her veins. This was it. She had to learn more about the man who had laid down this challenge, who had shifted her world yet again. It wasn't just about her startup now, it was about survival. The following day, she met her ally, Jordan, at a bustling cafe. The air buzzed with conversations, and as they settled at a small table, Elena felt her pulse quicken. She couldn't shake the feeling that Christina, the woman who helped her launch her business, had inadvertently put her in Caldwell's line of fire. "Caldwell's been betting on startups for years," Jordan said, leaning in. "He targets those he thinks he can crush or control. You're not the first, Elena. But you could be the last. His biggest loss can become your biggest triumph." Elena's heart sank. The truth felt heavy as it landed. "You mean he sees me as some sort of experiment?" "Exactly. He wants to see if you can endure the pressure when the stakes are taken higher." Jordan glanced around nervously before continuing. And I've heard whispers that he plans to put you in a public showdown, one that could ruin your reputation if you fail. A wave of nausea washed over her. What does he want from me? Revenge, maybe? Or simply to show that he is untouchable? Jordan's eyes met hers, earnest and fearful. Elena, I need you to be careful. Do not underestimate him. You're on a precarious ledge. Determination flickered within her. Elena realized that Caldwell had underestimated her spirit, her resilience. But what if he decided to target those she loved? Later that night, as she grappled with anxiety, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize but answered anyway. Elena? It's Thomas Caldwell. We need to talk. Her breath hitched. What do you want? The world is a stage, Elena. And you, my dear, have a leading role. Let us discuss your future, yours and my interests. The call ended, leaving her in devastating silence. He knew exactly how to play her, and somehow, she felt caught, trapped in a game where the rules might change at any moment. Was she ready to step into that spotlight? What did he mean by my interests? As she stared into the darkened window, her reflections haunted her, a crossing of destinies that could shatter or reshape everything she had worked for. Elena clenched her fists again, this time with newfound purpose. She had to uncover Caldwell's secrets before they consumed her. But at what cost would her independence come? Tomorrow, she would find out. But the biggest question loomed larger: who truly held the power in this game? The next day dawned gray and heavy, mirroring the storm brewing in Elena's heart. Breathing deeply, she tried to shake off her nerves as she prepared for what lay ahead. Caldwell's voice still echoed in her ears, a sinister reminder that she was dancing on a razor's edge. Determination surged within her, battling against the knot of anxiety in her stomach. She arrived at a sleek office building downtown, its glass facade glinting in the dim light. With each step she took toward the entrance, she felt as if she were walking into the mouth of a beast. The receptionist smiled, but it did nothing to quell the buzz of trepidation crackling in the air. I have an appointment with Thomas Caldwell, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Of course, miss. The receptionist replied, eyes flitting to the computer screen. Elena Ruiz, she answered, offering a slight smile, but it felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. A few moments later, she was ushered into Caldwell's office. The space was surprisingly welcoming: warm wood tones, rich artwork, and an expansive view of the city. However, the charm was undercut by the lurking presence of the man himself. He stood behind his desk, arms folded, a self-satisfied smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Welcome, Elena. It's nice to finally meet you in person, he said, his voice smooth like silk. Cut the pleasantries, Caldwell. I know why I'm here, she shot back, defiance bursting forth. His expression never faltered. Ah, I like your spirit. But allow me to lay it all out for you. You're in a unique position, and I want to help you, for a price. Elena crossed her arms, unwilling to show any weakness. What kind of help? He leaned forward, piercing blue eyes locking onto hers. Your startup, we both know it has potential. But potential means nothing without strategy, influence, and, quite frankly, a good team behind it. I have all of those things. Imagine how far you could go with my backing. And there it was, his offer drenched in allure, but beneath it, she sensed the threat. And what do you want in return, Caldwell? My soul? His laughter echoed around the room, both charming and chilling. Not your soul, Elena. Just your obedience. She felt a chill run down her spine. Obedience? Think of it as a partnership, on my terms. You allow me to guide your decisions, and I'll ensure you succeed. You could be a millionaire before you know it. But Elena knew the shadows that danced behind his words. No thanks. I'll manage without you. His gaze darkened, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face before it transformed back into that confident mask. "You're making a grave mistake." She held her ground, refusing to back down. "Maybe, but you underestimating me won't be your only regret." There was a moment of silence, tension thick as both of them squared off, locked in a battle of wills. Slowly, Caldwell leaned back, a satisfied grin returning. "I admire your fire, maybe that's why I'm interested in you. But remember, Elena, this game is just beginning. And not every outcome is in your hands." As she turned to leave, a sense of urgency bubbled within her. She was standing against a man who didn't play fair, and she needed to find allies, protect her vision, and above all, shield her loved ones from Caldwell's dangerous games. Elena stepped out of the building, determination coursing through her. She had to act quickly. Caldwell wouldn't give up, and every second wasted could mean losing everything she had fought for. But who could she trust? And what desperate measures would she need to take to protect her world from tumbling down? With that looming uncertainty, she felt the stakes rise. Tomorrow she would lay the groundwork for her defense. But a bigger question lingered: could she outmaneuver Caldwell before he made his next move? Elena wandered the streets, her mind racing. Caldwell's twisted offer replayed like a bad song stuck in her head. She felt the weight of the world pressing down on her chest. It would have been easy to walk away, to pretend none of it had happened, but deep inside, she knew she couldn't escape. Caldwell was a looming cloud, one that could rain down chaos at any moment. The cacophony of the city buzzed around her, cars honking, people chatting, the occasional bark from a dog. Yet, she felt isolated, cut off from the world around her. She needed to find a way to fight back. She had poured her heart and soul into her startup, and there was no way she'd let someone like Caldwell swoop in and take it all away. She passed a cafe and caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. Her brown hair was messy, eyes lined with worry. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. But she wasn't about to let fear define her. That version of Elena was gone. The fire inside her had ignited, pushing her to seek help. Elena pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling slightly. She considered calling Sophie, her childhood friend and a talented coder who had believed in her vision from the start. They had shared dreams over late-night ice cream runs, talking about building an empire together. Would it be too much to ask her to come back into the fold? But first, she'd need to face the truth. As she hit dial, her heart raced. 1 ring, 2 rings. Finally, Sophie answered. "Elena. It's been a while. What's up?" The warmth in Sophie's voice wrapped around her like a blanket. Elena took a deep breath. "Sophie, I need to talk to you. It's about the startup." "Oh? Is everything okay?" "Not even close." "Can we meet?" "Of course. How about my place? I'll brew a fresh pot of coffee." "Sounds perfect." Moments later, they were face to face, laughter warming the cold space. But when the laughter faded, Elena hesitated. "I had a meeting with Caldwell today," she finally said, letting her guard down. Sophie's eyes widened. "What did he say?" "He offered to back me, but it came with strings." "Obedience. I want to let him control me, but I'm scared of what he could do." Sophie's brow furrowed. "He's not someone you can just ignore. We need a plan. You can't take him on alone." Elena felt a surge of gratitude. Sophie was right. She couldn't fight this battle by herself. They spent the next hour brainstorming, the ideas flowed like caffeine through their veins. They mapped out a strategy, pulling together contacts and resources, but as they built their defenses, a chilling thought slithered into Elena's mind. What if Caldwell was already one step ahead? She couldn't shake it, the feeling that he was watching, waiting for a chink in her armor. As the sun dipped below the skyline, a fierce determination settled in her chest. "I want to let him win. Not without a fight." Sophie nodded, her own resolve strong. We can do this, Elena. Together. And yet, that nagging feeling lingered. There was so much they didn't know about Caldwell. What were his true motives? What if he had allies of his own lurking in the shadows? The following day would bring their first step in gathering an army of their own, starting with Sophie's coding contacts. Each ally would bring them closer to dismantling Caldwell's game. But as she prepared to dive into the fray, the question loomed larger: what price would she have to pay to beat a man who seemed to orchestrate chaos with a mere thought? Elena woke up the next morning with determination coursing through her veins. The taste of coffee lingered, the aroma wrapping around her as she prepared for the day ahead. Today, they would start building the foundation of their defense against Caldwell. She felt a shiver of anticipation. It was finally time to turn the tables. After a quick shower, she chose a sharp outfit, one that made her feel powerful. She glanced in the mirror one last time, her resolve reflected back at her. Today was about more than just her startup, it was about reclaiming her power. She met Sophie at a cozy co-working space downtown, a place buzzing with creators and entrepreneurs. The energy filled the air, sparking ideas and possibilities. They settled into a corner table framed by large windows, sunlight flooding the space, casting shadows of optimism. "All right, who do we start with?" Elena asked, her mind racing through potential contacts in Sophie's network. Sophie pulled out her laptop, fingers dancing over the keyboard. "Let us reach out to Tom first. He's a blockchain expert and has a knack for security. If Caldwell's already plotting, we need to protect our assets." As they worked through the list, each name brought a renewed sense of hope. They reached out to old friends, mentors, and even acquaintances whose lives had been touched by their startup dreams. But with each message sent, Elena couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. What if Caldwell has spies everywhere? She muttered, glancing around the room. Was it paranoia? Or was she right to distrust? Focus on what we can control. Sophie snapped gently, bringing Elena back to the task at hand. We can outsmart him. Trust me. Elena took a deep breath and nodded. You're right. We need to move fast. The adrenaline was building, and she could feel it igniting her ambition once again. Hours passed in a blur of brainstorming and strategy calls. They gathered vital information and laid out a plan to create a digital fortress around their work. The more they collaborated, the more hope flourished in Elena's heart. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like she had power in her hands, shaping her destiny. Around lunchtime, they stepped outside for a break. The late morning sun warmed their faces, and the bustling streets felt alive with possibilities. They spotted a nearby park and decided to grab sandwiches from a food truck. As they ate under the shade of a tree, Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced down, and her heart raced. It was a text from Caldwell. Hope you're having a productive day, Elena. Remember, you can't escape your fate. Choose wisely. Her heart sank. Sophie, look at this. What the hell? Sophie's eyes widened as she read the message. We can't let him intimidate us. This is just a mind game. I know, but it's working, Elena whispered, her voice trembling. She had fought so hard to build and now it felt like everything was teetering on the edge of a knife. Sophie clasped her hand. Do not let him shake you. You have me. You have a plan. We are gathering allies. This is just noise. You're stronger than this. Elena swallowed hard, her emotions swirling in a storm. She couldn't show weakness. Not now. You're right. This is just his way of trying to unnerve me. But I won't let him. A new fire flared within her, more intense than before. They returned to the co-working space, determination fueling the next phase of their plan, but as night fell and the city lights flickered on, a new thought crept into her mind, dark and menacing. What if Caldwell's control stretched beyond just intimidation? What if he had allies too, ones operating in the shadows, that question loomed larger as they delved deeper into their work. They couldn't afford to let their guard down, not for a second. With each new step forward, she felt both exhilarated and vulnerable, caught in a web of chaos spun by Caldwell. Elena took another deep breath, ready to push through the shadows. She could not falter now. But a thought echoed ominously in her mind. What if this was just the calm before the storm? What if? They were walking straight into Caldwell's trap. As they plotted their next move, Elena couldn't help but wonder if they could truly outsmart a man who thrived in the shadows. The stakes rose higher with every ticking second, and soon she would have to face both her demons and her determination in ways she never imagined. The afternoon slipped into a haze of concentration and urgency. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting an orange glow across the co-working space, Elena and Sophie went deeper into their strategic planning. Elena felt taut, like a bowstring pulled back, ready to unleash an arrow. "Let's check in with Tom," Sophie said, breaking Elena's intense focus. "If he has some insight into not just security but also backing us with some credible contacts, we may get a better handle on Caldwell." Elena nodded, taking a deep breath to hold back the anxiety. They clicked into a video call, and Tom's familiar face appeared on the screen, framed by books and plants, his demeanor calm. "Hey, ladies. What's the scoop?" he asked with a grin. Elena felt the weight of their urgency pressing against her chest. "We're building a defense against Caldwell. We've reached out to various allies, but we need your expertise. What do you know about his methods?" Tom leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "Caldwell likes to play psychological games. He leans on his resources and the fear he spreads. But if you can outsmart him digitally, you can assert control." "What do you recommend?" Sophie asked. "First, we set up a secure channel for communication. An encrypted messaging app is a must. Caldwell loves to exploit weaknesses those can be found in miscommunication." Elena felt a glimmer of hope. "What else?" "Network safety protocols. That way, if he's listening, he won't get anything worthwhile. We can also gather a few trusted allies to document anything shady on his end. Having evidence strengthens your position." The conversation filled Elena with ideas. They could do this. With Tom's help and their determination, they had a fighting chance. After they wrapped up the call, Elena leaned back in her chair, feeling a mixture of relief and renewed vigor. This could work. We build a fortress, not just for us but for everyone who has been affected by him. Sophie smiled brightly. "Right. We become a united front. We draw strength from our connections." But even as she spoke, doubt crept into the edges of Elena's mind. How many of Caldwell's moves were still hidden? What if he already knows we're preparing? What if he's one step ahead? Sophie squeezed her arm. "We can't think like that. You know we have to focus on what we can control." Taking a deep breath, Elena felt strength seep in, pushing out the doubt. "You're right. We'll adapt and stay ahead." But an idea struck her. What if we dig deeper into Caldwell's background? What if there are skeletons we can uncover? Sophie's expression lit up. "That could be huge. If we can find something, we could expose him, weaken his position." As the wheels of strategy began to turn again, they spent hours tracking down every clue, every piece of information related to Caldwell. Each tidbit painted a more convoluted portrait of the man, his previous deals, enemies he'd made, mistakes he'd tried to bury. Suddenly, Elena's eyes widened as she stumbled upon something particularly shocking. "Sophie. Look at this. Caldwell had a company that went bankrupt due to fraud allegations and the shareholders are still furious. They could be allies." The realization hit them both like a gust of wind. Well-placed opportunities could align them against Caldwell. "That's it," Sophie exclaimed. "We reach out to them. If they're angry, they'll want to expose him just as much as we do. This is more than a fight now, it's about justice. Fueled by adrenaline, Elena's heart raced. They could turn the tide. They could stand against everything Caldwell represented. But in the back of her mind, a new worry brewed. What if Caldwell caught wind of their investigation? What if he retaliated before they had a chance to make their move? With determination settled deep in her bones, she whispered to herself, I won't let fear move me. I'm taking charge. As night settled into the vibrant city, Elena felt her resolve solidify like iron. But just as they began drafting their message to the disgruntled shareholders, her phone buzzed again. Another text from Caldwell. Be careful, Elena. The truth has a way of revealing itself, often in the darkest hour. Elena's heart sank. It was a warning, but also a challenge. The stakes had never been higher. What kind of storm was brewing? Would they emerge victorious, or would Caldwell's shadow swallow them whole? Elena's fingers trembled as she stared at the message, the weight of Caldwell's words hanging over her like a storm cloud. The tension in the room was palpable, a thick mist of uncertainty and fear. She glanced over at Sophie, whose brow was furrowed in thought. What do you think? Sophie asked, her voice low. Is it just a bluff? Elena shook her head, her mind racing. No, he's not the type to bluff. He's capable of digging into our lives, our plans. But we can't let that intimidate us. Sophie nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. We need to act fast. Let us send that message to the shareholders tonight, before he has a chance to fully react. They spent the next few hours crafting the message, each word chosen with care, infused with urgency. They poured their hearts into it, expressing the anger, fear, and determination of not just themselves but of all those impacted by Caldwell's actions. The clock ticked on, each passing minute adding to the peanut butter-like anxiety that clung to the room. Finally, with a deep breath and a shared look of resolve, Elena hit send. Instantly afterward, she felt a weight lift, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. Before they could even process what to do next, Elena's phone buzzed again. A notification from their shared social media account. A post went live, an article about Caldwell's past dealings. It seemed someone was already echoing their sentiments, shining a light on Caldwell's questionable practices. Elena stared at the screen. Do you think this is connected? Sophie's eyes widened. Maybe the shareholders got wind of us reaching out. If they're rallying now, it could be a movement. Engulfed in a wave of hope, they dove into the comments. What began as a trickle of outrage swiftly escalated into a flood, with dozens of people sharing their stories. The more they scrolled, the more they realized Caldwell's empire was not as unshakable as it seemed. I can't believe this is happening, Elena murmured, a smile creeping onto her face. People are standing up. It's like a domino effect. But even as joy bloomed, doubt surfaced like dark clouds above. What if he strikes back? He's going to see this momentum as a threat. Sophie frowned, her voice firm. We need to prepare. Caldwell has resources, but so do we. We gather our allies, fortify our plan, and stand together. Elena's heart raced at the thought. Together, they could take on the world. Suddenly, another message popped up, this time from an unknown number. Seems like you've stirred the pot, Elena. You're going to regret this. Elena's stomach dropped. She glanced at Sophie, her heart pounding. What did I just do? Wait, don't panic. He's trying to intimidate us, Sophie insisted, but Elena could see the fear mirrored in her friend's eyes. What if he knows? Elena whispered, her breath shaky. What if we've played our hand too early? They exchanged glances filled with dread. The clock was ticking, and Caldwell was not a man to take lightly. With determination rising like a phoenix, Elena clenched her fists. We can't back down. I refuse to let him control this narrative. We fight for every person he's wronged. Just then, Elena's phone buzzed again. Another notification. A video was posted by another journalist, this one featuring a whistleblower from Caldwell's past, detailing insider stories that confirmed suspicions of his corrupt practices. As the video played, showcasing damning evidence, Elena felt both exhilaration and fear make a turbulent cocktail in her stomach. They might have a chance, but the real question loomed larger than ever: was this just the beginning, or had they just triggered a bigger storm? With every ounce of her being, she steeled herself. They were in this together, no turning back. The night was dark, yet the embers of hope sparked wild within them. Could they control the narrative enough to expose Caldwell before he struck again? "Elena," Sophie whispered, her eyes bright with resolve. "Whatever happens next, we stand together." And as the weight of their fight settled in, the real battle had only just begun. Elena stared at her phone, the screen reflecting the intensity of her heartbeat. The video was still playing, a montage of evidence that could shake Caldwell's empire to its core. She turned to Sophie, who was watching intently, her eyes widening with every revelation. This could change everything," Sophie whispered, her voice barely a tremor above a breath. "But at what cost?" Elena replied, her heart sinking slightly. The looming threat of Caldwell was more than just a shadow now, it felt like a monstrous beast ready to pounce at any moment. "We could expose him, but if he knows it's us then we make sure he doesn't." Sophie interrupted, a spark igniting in her eyes. "We have to be smart about this. If we act recklessly, it could backfire." Elena nodded, feeling the hope and fear wrestle for dominance in her chest. What if this was their chance? What if they could finally bring him down? Yet, the potential consequences of angering a man like Caldwell filled her with uncertainty. They spent the rest of the night drafting strategies, talking in hushed tones, and piecing together a plan that would protect them. Every suggestion came with a heavy weight, every decision etched in importance. As the dawn broke, fatigue tugged at Elena's eyelids, yet she couldn't allow herself the luxury of sleep. She and Sophie needed allies. They brainstormed names, reaching out to trusted contacts within their network who shared Caldwell's story from different angles. The list grew longer, each name a beacon of hope. "Let us meet at the diner," Sophie suggested, her tone resolute. "We can talk to Mark and Lisa. They know what Caldwell is capable of." If we work together, a notification buzzed through the tense air, drawing Elena's focus back to her phone. A new article was posted. She hesitated before clicking, the title making her stomach twist. "Caldwell strikes back, behind the launch of his new innovative project." What? What does he mean? Sophie leaned closer, both of them scanning the article. Caldwell had quickly turned the narrative back on them, launching a seemingly philanthropic project that overshadowed their efforts. Each word felt like a jab, his manipulative tactics spilling through the lines. "He's trying to distract everyone," Elena murmured, dread washing over her. "If he makes it about this new project, people might forget what we just exposed. He's trying to undercut our momentum." Sophie's face fell. "What can we do? We need to hit back fast. Otherwise, we risk losing everything we just gained." Elena felt panic bubbling, but she pushed it down. "We need to counter his narrative. If we unite our voices, if we ignite the passion from the video, we can remind people why they should care. It can't be about just him, we need to make it about everyone he has hurt." With newfound determination, they sprang into action, harnessing their connections and the fiery spirit of the message brewing online. They planned a press conference to air their grievances, detailing Caldwell's manipulations and inviting those affected to share their stories. As they hammered out the details, Elena's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID read unknown. Her heart raced. Was it Caldwell trying to intimidate her again? "I'll answer," she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. Taking a deep breath, she picked up. "Hello?" An unfamiliar voice replied, low and serious. "Elena, you don't understand the depths of what you're up against. You need to listen to me, before it's too late. Elena's breath caught in her throat. Who was this person? And why did they sound so urgent? Was this a warning, or just another tactic to scare her? Her heart beat loudly, her mind racing with possibilities. She exchanged a glance with Sophie, who looked back, equally perplexed and anxious. Stay calm, Elena thought to herself. Just focus. Who are you? Elena asked, her voice firm despite the tremors of uncertainty. I'm someone who knows Caldwell's secrets. And if you proceed without caution, his retaliation will be worse than you can imagine. Meet me tomorrow. Before she could respond, the line went dead. Elena's mind whirled, the implications of the call sending shivers down her spine. Would meeting this stranger help them, or lead them into a trap? Did you hear that? Sophie whispered, the tension thickening the air. What do we do? Elena knew one thing for certain, they were at a crossroads, teetering dangerously between hope and fear. With a steadying breath, she squared her shoulders. We're going to find out what they know. But little did they realize, what lay ahead was not just a battle for justice, but a confrontation that would redefine their lives forever. The storm was just beginning, and they were at the eye of it. The following day, the morning sun broke over the skyline, casting a golden glow that felt almost surreal against the storm of chaos that had been brewing. The ominous call from the previous night weighed heavily on Elena's heart. True dread settled in. She had a feeling that meeting this stranger could either turn the tide or tear everything down. Elena dressed with purpose, slipping on a simple yet powerful outfit that reminded her of her roots. Every detail mattered. This meeting wasn't just a step, it was a leap towards reclaiming her life and proving herself against Caldwell. Sophie joined her at the cafe, eyes bright with concern. Elena, are you sure about this? Elena met her gaze, determination sparking in her chest. I have to know. I can't let fear dictate my choices. As they entered the small cafe, the familiar aroma of fresh coffee wove its way around them, mingling with chatter from eager patrons. Elena scanned the room, heart racing as she searched for the mysterious caller. A figure by the window caught her eye, a man with a calm demeanor, bookish glasses perched low on his nose, tapping rhythmically on his phone. She walked over, Sophie close behind. Are you? He looked up, a hint of a smile crossing his lips. Elena. Yes. I'm Derek. They seated themselves, the weight of the world pressing down. You said you know Caldwell's secrets? Derek nodded, leaning forward. He's dangerous, and his manipulation runs deep. You've already rattled his cage, which is why I reached out. But if you want to truly defeat him, you need to understand his games. Elena felt a rush of adrenaline. Then tell me. What does he want? Derek glanced around, ensuring their conversation was private. Control. Power. His foundation is built on exploiting others. Anyone who threatens that will suffer consequences. He has created a narrative that makes it difficult for any potential opponent to rise. But I've seen him fall before, and he can be brought down again. Tell me how. How do we stop him? Her voice was almost frantic, ignited by the urgency of their mission. You need evidence. Things he has covered up, the bankruptcy, yes, but also shady deals and questionable associates. You align those affected and form a united front. You show the world who he really is. Hope surged in Elena, but an ember of fear still lingered. What if he retaliates? Derek's gaze hardened. He will. But if you gather your allies, if you unite the voices he has silenced, you become unstoppable. The clock ticked on, urgency swirling in the air. As Derek laid out a strategy, Elena's spirit ignited. It was a straightforward plan, but it required trust, something both precious and dangerous. At that moment, she realized they were not just participants in a game, they were the catalysts for change. As they wrapped up the meeting, Elena exhaled a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Thank you, Derek. We'll take it from here. Good luck, Elena. Just remember, always play the long game. Once outside, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. We have to act fast, she told Sophie, the fire of newfound courage coursing through her veins. They launched into action, reaching out to everyone they had discussed, using all their connections to create a whirlwind of energy. Messages flew back and forth like electricity, rallying support from those who had suffered under Caldwell's control. Old colleagues were contacted, stories were shared, every narrative woven into a tapestry of resistance. News had broken about Caldwell's latest project, something that aimed to erase the bad press and redefine his public image as a benevolent billionaire. But as they flooded social media with their stories, it became clear this was no act of charity. It was a facade. Elena felt the tide shifting. The anger of people pushed unheard for too long began to rise. Post after post, comment after comment, each one like fuel for a fire that couldn't be snuffed out. Then, as evening descended, a message popped up on Elena's phone from an unknown number. "I know where you are. Be careful." Her heart raced. Was it Caldwell? Or a ploy to intimidate again? Who was it? Sophie asked, peering over her shoulder. "I don't know. We must stay alert. This isn't just about us anymore, it's bigger." With energy surging, they headed to their press conference, ready to lay bare Caldwell's manipulations. As they stood in front of that crowd, a powerful sense of unity washed over them. The laughter and chatter that had once felt overwhelming now morphed into a chorus of hope. Elena stepped closer to the microphone, her voice steady and clear. "Today we stand together, not just for ourselves but for everyone who has faced discrimination because of greed and power. We will expose the truth, and together, we will prevail." As she spoke, Elena felt strength ripple through her. She wasn't just a maid's daughter anymore. She was a force, a voice for change. The audience erupted in applause, and there, amidst the chants for justice, the fire inside Elena ignited fully. They were on the cusp of something monumental. The storm that had once threatened to consume her now felt like a wave waiting to crash down in sweeping victory. Whatever Caldwell planned, whatever retaliation awaited them, they would not bow down. They had become a united front, standing tall against the dark shadow. Elena finally understood this was not the end, but the beginning of an unprecedented fight against corrupt power, and as the night crept in, Elena stood tall, shining brighter than ever, ready to take on whatever storm lay ahead. Now is the time for you, dear viewers. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm, and comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Your support is invaluable. True fans understand the importance of these actions.